Welcome into TimeOut Kansas City. This week, we're adjusting the schedule a little bit because we wanted to wait until after the Summer Familial Cup semifinals was played, with the Kansas City Current advancing, and Sporting Kansas City backs into the knockout stage of the Leagues Cup. We're joined by Steve from the Paint the Wall podcast to kind of break it down because it's a lot of soccer. So we've got our resident football expert, and he's even wearing a football jersey from the other type of football, getting ready. The National Football League kicks off this Saturday. Steve, of course, you can see him on the Paint the Wall podcast, featured on the FiredUP Network as well. Best way to see the FiredUP Network is to download that TrueTV Plus app, available anywhere you get your apps. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us again, a frequent contributor. And, it was a busy week in soccer. What was your initial reaction from the two Kansas City sides?
Well, pretty happy and excited about one, and pretty not happy and excited about the other, I guess. I mean, to your point, we still advanced, and we knew Sporting was advancing going into the game. It was really just who they were going to play and which seed, I guess. I think they're seeded. They were going to get. So it was kind of a bummer to have to now go to Columbus and play the Crew, but we got to advance either way. I think that's, given the way the season's going, that's probably still a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, and I imagine you agree with me, this is still the best that Sporting's played all year, because Toluca is a good team.
Yep.
And their payroll is $25 million higher than Sporting's.
Yeah.
I knew Liga MX paid more. I didn't know it was that much more.
Yeah. Yeah, and they finished third last year. Of course, Liga MX just started their season this year. That's kind of the perk of this tournament, is we get them at the very beginning of their season. They get us almost towards the end of ours. So, you never really know what you're going to get with the Liga MX teams, but in this case, we got a pretty decent one, I would say.
Yeah. How much better is Liga MX than MLS? I mean, just for casual viewers that really aren't into the weeds of international soccer, they're our closest international league, and a lot of people watch the EPL. Where would they rank between MLS and EPL?
Honestly, I would say they're pretty close to MLS. They're not, maybe a little bit above us, but not that much.
Okay.
A lot of our competitions, like Leagues Cup and Champions Cup and stuff like that, I mean, we fare pretty well against. Not just Sporting, we being MLS. I think we do just fine against in those competitions. It doesn't really feel like it's one-sided. Maybe the All-Star game seems to be, but other than that, I don't really view it as really that much different. I think they're really on just about the same, maybe a little higher, but just about the same level as we are.
Is that somewhere where MLS has kind of closed a gap that was bigger over the time?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, probably a lot of that's from bringing that talent over. We've had a lot of Liga MX, Polito being a perfect example, that we've brought over into the MLS. And I think there's still a pay gap, but I mean, there's a pay gap in between MLS teams. So that's not really anything all that new that we deal with over here either. So I think that it's a pretty comparable thing, but it's definitely improved over the last several years for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they hung in there. It was definitely a close game, and save a Willie Agata airmail over the crossbars on an open scoring opportunity, as evident by Sporting's expected goals at 1.98 and Toluca at 1.89. I mean, goal expected, it should have been a 2-2 draw. I did want to take a look at the goal Sporting scored, because I think this is a key contribution, a key accomplishment of this season, no matter what happens the rest of the way. Watch this from Stephen at Freefeld.
Freefeld with some space. left, no one outside him. He goes inside, goes for the shot. He scored. That's a brilliant equaliser. Stephen and Freefa pulls one out at the end of the first half, and it's 1-1.
We're starting to see more and more youngster who understands just how special he can be. What a moment this is. The Freefa has had a couple of quality moments in this first half, but this is...
That was just a beautiful goal, and he's been really stepping it up. He's living up now to what we were told he was doing in preseason. I mean, we interviewed him all the way back in the preseason, and we're told, hey, you're going to see him contribute this year. He is now. Mm-hmm. I guess my question is, how much of an answer, how much foundational pieces are Stephen Afrifa, Jake Davis, Willie Agada, and just returning Logan Ndebe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those four in particular, I think, are very foundational. I don't expect them to be going anywhere. Agada has, he started off kind of slow, but really just come on hot with scoring goals, and Pulido seems to be not doing that at the moment. So it's nice to have a backup plan, which is the primary plan now, I guess. So Ndembe coming back, I think, is going to be a huge addition at that left back spot that's been kind of weak all season. It seems like a lot of goals kind of come from that area, or at least build up before a goal starts there. So we got a lot of issues on our back line, but it's not going to solve all of our problems. But it definitely is a key. As long as he stays healthy and can get back to sporting fit, that term that sporting fans love, as long as he can stay sporting fit, then I think that's going to be a really key one. But even going forward, those four are absolutely foundational for sure.
Which is a good takeaway from the season, no matter how it ends, because at some point on a league that, hey, salaries are an issue. If you can develop young players that can start at key positions, you can control their salary for a long time. That makes it a lot easier to be competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then I don't know. We'll see if we sign anybody with this. This window closes here.
Supposedly they are.
Something like that. Yeah, I've heard that there was supposed to be one that they were just about done with all the stuff, all the agreements and all that stuff. And then Peter had said there's a potential second depending on roster availability, which I thought Jean-Yves getting transferred out was going to be the answer to that roster availability. But so far, nothing's come through yet. But I think there's another week left, I believe, in the window. I think it's the 14th, but I don't remember exactly.
Now, we're talking about the back line because, that has been the issue. Even the goal that made it 2-1, it was a free run.
Mm-hmm.
First player got in, Melia gets a save, and the second player runs free to the goal. Nobody chasing him. Who would you play across the back four? You're Peter Vermees. You're in charge. Who do you line up back there for Sporting of the guys that are on the team now?
Yeah, probably Jake on the right, assuming that I have a midfielder, that I'm not still dealing with midfielder problems. So we'll see if Radajai ends up still being injured. But if he's not actually injured and we have a midfield kind of back, then I would say Jake back at right. I would put Rosero and Castellanos in the center. They seem to be our strongest options. And then Ndembe on the left, if he's back full strength, assuming that he's full strength. Until then, probably still Leibold starting until Ndembe is ready to go 90.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Castellanos has been the most physically impressive, I think, of the center defenders, and Rosero's been active. I mean, he's the big reason why they're still going in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, hey, let's get one more up-close look at Sporting and hear what Peter Vermees had to say about this performance, how he felt about the game. Had a question asking about Did you feel okay? How did the game go? They lose 2-1 to Toluca. Played pretty
Mhm.
well. Here's what Peter said.
We did. You're right. The early chance by Willie in the second half, big chance. He's just got to smash it home, and he knows. And we talked about it, him and I, and I know where he's coming from, but he's got to smash that home. And it's different now. They got to really open up, and I think that we had the changes to come on to really then strike the other way. But I thought the vibe from our team was very good all night. We moved the ball well, and I think we created very good chances. And I thought we defended well within the game. So I thought good performance, just unfortunate. A little disappointed in the fact that we whether we have to go and play whoever it was more about us winning the game, but we performed well.
Well, and there we go. And I mean, really, I don't think you can really say a lot more than that because it was an okay effort. I mean, they didn't get embarrassed. They hung in there. They had a chance, and not feeling too good about advancing over the Crew, though, right?
No. I think we did enough against Toluca that we should have been able to at least get it tied and get it to PKs, which give me Tim Melia and penalty kicks any day of the week. So I think we could have done enough, but Willie just puts that one over the bar. That's kind of his crutch. He has a lot of those misses, but I mean, our alternative is Polito, which, like I talked about on our podcast this week, Polito wouldn't have even been there to take that shot because he's always been out of position lately. So it's like I'll still take our striker being in that spot and being there to potentially put that on goal versus we make that cross and there's nobody there, which is what we were at the beginning of the season. So, I'll deal with the misses because he's at least there and able to give us the chance to score. So just unfortunate he doesn't slot that one home. But like I said, advance anyway. So
yeah, I mean they go through. They're in the final 32. Going to the site of quite possibly their worst effort of the year, though, against Columbus. That was just an uncompetitive game. Mm-hmm. They got beat down. So hopefully they can play better and at least continue to pull some momentum back to the regular season. They need to almost win out to make the playoffs. And really right now, kind of all chips in on the U.S. Open Cup. That's coming up again on the 27th, taking on the Indy 11. Have you done some more research on the Indy 11 outside of knowing they're from Indianapolis?
Not really. They are playing right now, though, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw on... I got a random Facebook notification that Indy 11's playing right now, and I'm like, why am I getting this? So I believe they're playing a game right now, but I still haven't done a whole lot of research into them. But I think ultimately it's gonna, just like every other game, it's not so much about the team we're playing; it's gonna come down to how well we play. So, it's more: do we show up and can we execute and can Agata slot that goal home that we need him to, or is he going to put it over the bar? I think it's going to come more down to how we perform and what we do versus is Indy 11 going to show up and beat us kind of thing.
I'd agree with that. Let's go over to the other side of the city, CPKC Stadium. The Kansas City Current, they're in position to get a championship locked down, but we're going to have to wait a while.
Yeah.
They advance with the semifinal win in the Summer Familial Cup. And of course, in the tradition, the Summer Familial Cup will be decided on October 25th. Because it's summer somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has to do with international breaks and everything, but
yeah, we spent way too much time talking about this on our podcast today about, I don't understand why because they don't go back. NWSL doesn't pick back up until August 23rd. So there's like 2 weeks. I'm like, why are they not just finishing this tournament now? And also, why did it go straight to semifinals? Why do we have 20 teams competing for 4 spots? Like, you could easily have one more round and still fit it in before the 23rd. It didn't make any sense to me. I'm sure there's a reasoning, but I don't know. I don't know why we're waiting until October for this final, but who knows?
I can't tell you. And something else that I think needs to move forward. Daniel Sperry and I asked at each of the games of the tournament that were played at CPKC Stadium. Hey, wouldn't it be good if some of these games were played in Mexico? Because Liga MX women's side only started in 2017. And, I had asked, hey, how much better are the men's Liga MX teams than MLS? Well, the opposite question. How much better are the NWSL teams than the Liga MX teams? Because it wasn't even competitive. I mean, the Current just rolled through both Tigres and Pachuca.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and of course, we're talking about Kansas City, which is also the top of our league, the top of NWSL. So there was probably, I didn't pay too much attention to that cup other than Kansas City Current. So there was probably some Liga MX teams that held with some NWSL, maybe they lost still, but maybe they held with them. I have no idea, but I think
Tigres was the best, and they were a little bit more competitive. They had it down to 2-1 at one point, and then Dabinia punched in goal 3 about 30 seconds after Timby scored for Tigres. Timby, of course, member of the South African national team and a former NWSL player. So there is a little crossover back and forth between the leagues.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think that you can't, like you said, they just started in 2017, so they're a new league. So there's not a whole lot that you can expect from it. I assume there's probably not a whole lot of money being transferred around down there either. It's probably similar to NWSL. I assume NWSL has more money because they're kind of the premier women's league. So I don't know, I'm sure it'll get closer, just like it did with MLS and Liga MX. It'll get closer, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, and let me ask you, on the Current side, we asked about foundational young players for Sporting. Foundational young players for the Current. Claire Hutton scores her first professional goal in that game against Tigres. Ellie Wheeler scored. Michelle Cooper sets up multiple opportunities, had a goal taken away on an offsides. And Lauren, who you're going to see in the women's gold medal game playing for Brazil, are those 4 young players foundational pieces for the Current moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. I think that they're going to, just like the ones we mentioned with Sporting, they're definitely going to be integral with us going forward, as long as we can maintain them and they don't get pulled away, money wise by other leagues. But
sure,
but I don't see any reason why they would want to leave Kansas City, because they're getting playing time. They're going to get developed. They're playing some of the best competition that there is, and they're on a good team. So, why leave if you don't have to? If they don't force you out, might as well stay.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of movement to other leagues. Claire Lavalier, she left to go back to France, though. So I think that was more of a going home. And honestly, she wasn't playing that much. She went from a starter to a backup, and honestly, her minutes had been declining throughout the season. So
yeah,
seems like a fairly good move. And she was a great contributor for him for a couple of years, but you're going to have some turnover and reload if you're going to stay at the top of the table.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be the only thing I would think I would be worried about with some of those younger players, is if we establish a culture where we bring in these like big high level players and keep competing. Some of these younger lower level players are not lower level, but younger players are, they're going to get sick of sitting on the bench eventually, and probably another NWSL team is going to sign them to come over and be a starter on their team. Somebody probably at the bottom of the table would rather have them as a starter. So we may run into that a bit, but I mean, that's going to happen anywhere. That's hard to, that's hard to go against,
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that's true. That
as
is
long
a good
as you're
problem
still sitting on top, that's okay.
Yeah,
it's always good when you see Byron Pringle running around at wide receiver for somebody, or Demarcus Robinson playing wide receiver somewhere.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's very
I'll
true.
take Hollywood Brown. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Just one more soccer question, because it's extremely timely. The U.S. men's national team, they did better than I thought they would. I was at that game where they played Japan at Children's Mercy Park, and wow, they looked bad.
Yeah.
They advanced to the knockout stage.
Yep.
Lost, but they made it, which is better than U.S. teams have done in the past.
True.
And they kind of had their hands tied in putting that team together because of the MLS being in season, because of the national team playing in the Copa. They couldn't really put the best foot forward, to
True.
borrow a soccer cliche. They kind of played on the back foot with that roster.
Mm-hmm.
And the women's team, as we are filming this, they're advancing to the gold medal round, but it hasn't been the traditional domination that you'd expect from the U.S. women's national team. And the domination that was already diminishing that really pushed Flacco out of the job because people complained they weren't offensive minded enough. And you look at the current, they're going to break every offensive record in NWSL. So I think that's proof the issue wasn't Flacco's coaching. The issue with the women's soccer team not being as dominant is everybody's trying now.
Yeah.
What do you
It's
think?
the competition that we're going up against is definitely a lot stronger, and a lot, they're sick of watching the U.S. win everything, I assume. So that makes it a lot harder. But they are still, at least this Olympics, we're able to get it done and get to the gold medal match. Of course, we get Brazil. So, I'd rather play any other team in the world, including at least half the men's teams. But we get Brazil instead. So we'll give that a shot, I guess. And I don't know. Hopefully Marta doesn't decide she really wants to go out on top and takes this game into her own hands. But it'll be a tough one, that's for sure.
Well, on the bright side for the U.S. national team, no Bia, no Davinia, because Davinia didn't make the team because she's been dealing with injuries, and Bia's out with an injury right now. Otherwise, you would have had 3 Kansas City current players on the Brazilian team taking on the U.S. national team.
Yeah, which would have been cool and painful all at the same time. So, especially if we end up losing, then I'd be like, well, I'm happy for them, but dang.
So either way, Kansas City can get a win. Either the U.S. team wins, or we can cheer on the Currents Lauren. Who's probably going to factor into the game at defense. But I think the U.S. can win this one. I think they can pull this one out.
Yeah. It'll be a tough one, but it'll be a good game to watch for sure.
Yeah, should be a great game. Let's go over to the Chiefs, because I don't know how much rugby you've watched. I know I've watched virtually none.
Sure.
Hot topic nationally. Can Luis Reyes Zemet make the jump from rugby to being a running back in the National Football League?
Why not? Why not? I've seen a few videos of him from camp not having a good time, it looked like. A couple of them trying to do some blocking drills and just getting flattened. But they were, I think the videos that I saw were from his first day doing that. So very new stuff. So I haven't seen a whole lot since then. But I mean, if you're gonna make that jump, there's no better coach to do it under than Andy Reid. So, and you got the best quarterback, you got the best tight end, you got a bunch of really good linemen, you got a wide receiver core that's beefed up now. So if you're gonna do it, you might as well come play on the best team in the league,
Well, and I think he'll benefit from maybe having the best special teams coach in the league in Dave Toub, because I think if he makes it, that's where he makes it, because what little I've seen of rugby, it seems to translate directly over to the new kickoff rule.
Yeah. I would not be surprised to see him on kick returns, and it probably have some success doing it, I would assume. Because to your point, like you said, the rugby does kind of seem to lend itself to that kind of stuff. Perfect example, our women's rugby team with that miraculous last second run, which was basically a kick return, other than catching the kick, but it lengthwise is basically a kick return. So
well, and he was clocked at one point running 24 miles an hour, which would put him even with the fastest man in the NFL, Tyreek Hill, last year. So that's got impressive. The explosive speed.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to watch. Besides that, what else has jumped out with you on the Chiefs? gotta say wide receivers is the thing to watch.
Yeah, wide receivers have been. I know they've been getting a lot of flack online because they're sharing a lot of videos of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown catching nice passes, deep passes, but they're going up against like coaches, or they're not going full speed or whatever. And I don't care. It's still there. The speed's still there. Patrick's still throwing it 60 yards in the air and dropping it perfectly in a bread basket. So, which I don't think anybody had any question that he could do that. It's more, are they going to catch it when he does it? And apparently they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think those two to me have been the most exciting thing. That and Kingsley Suamataia, he has been. I think he's going to be the starting left tackle. I really do.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I've gone to a couple of training camp sessions. He's been in there with the ones the whole time. And
yeah,
he seems to be relaxed, and the attitude seems to be like, hey, I got this, and has confidence that he's exuding.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you like to see that, right? You don't want to see guys stumbling around, head down, like they're totally lost.
Yeah.
Especially
when it comes from new draft picks that are in their first training camp. They've already got that confidence and feel like, and are showing that they have the talent to do it. Like that's just Brett Veach killing a draft again. So,
yeah. And the disappointing pick from last year, Felix Ndike-Azamba, he seems to be pulling it together. He's had a great camp too.
Yeah, that's another one that has seemed to be a lot better, and that's exciting because we're going to need it. Plus, you can always use pass rush. So, yeah, that makes
and
us
Charles
even
Omenihu,
scarier.
He looks close. Yeah. So I think they're going to be in a good position. I'm looking forward to the first exhibition game. It's coming up Saturday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which segs us into another topic of conversation going with the Chiefs. The Jacksonville Jaguars, long talked about as being the team most likely to leave to London because of the shared ownership. Tony and Shad Khan own the Jaguars. They also own Fulham in the EPL. The Jaguars usually do a 2-game residency in London every year, but they are not leaving Jacksonville. The Jaguar Stadium is getting remodeled for a second time, this time to the tune of $1.6 billion.
Dang.
And for our sister channel, Wrestling Spotlight, that's good news for All Elite Wrestling too, because they'll have some more events there. Maybe that's your U.S. Stadium show at the new Jacksonville Stadium. But
fun.
Does Clark go and say, "Hey, Tony, what are you getting in that new stadium? Because I want one of those."
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. I guess their citizens voted yes. Then I guess so. That's something that we were not able to do. So.
Yeah, I think it was just a city council vote.
It wasn't even a public.
It wasn't even a full public vote. It was just, let's go. Well, there was a vote similar to the one in Jacksonville that has happened and was a positive. That's the Kansas Star Bonds. The Chiefs made a little bit of news at training camp saying we want a decision on the stadium within 6 months. Now about 5 months and a week. Do you see any chance that Missouri, in the midst of an election season with turnover going on in the state government and the county government really not even participating, but actually kind of actively undermining the negotiation, think there's any chance Missouri gets something workable in the next 5 months and a week? Or are we looking at the Kansas City, Kansas Chiefs soon?
If they're smart, they will. I don't know why they would just let the Chiefs walk from Missouri to Kansas. They're going to lose a ton of money on that. Way more than would be coming in from the tax that didn't pass. So they're going to lose so much money on that. I think it'd be crazy for them not to try to put something together. But you're right. There's a lot of other stuff going on, a ton of factors that play into that. I don't know. I guess I lean towards thinking, yes, they'll get something at least put out. Will it be good enough? Who knows? But I mean, I surely you got to think they're going to at least make an effort to keep them. They're not just going to let them walk.
I'm thinking I'm feeling good right about now if I'm John Sherman, because
Yeah.
if I'm Missouri, I wouldn't want to be the state that loses the Rams, the Chiefs,
Mhm.
and the Royals
Yep.
within a decade. That's
Yeah.
not a good look.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I
But
mean, I personally, I don't care where they put the state. If they want to put it in Kansas, it doesn't. Honestly, having everything out of the Legends, having all the stadiums all in one area, kind of sounds cool to me. But well,
absolutely,
all
yeah,
but one
and a
stadium, let's just
casino
say.
and sports gambling.
Yeah, like having all that stuff out there doesn't sound bad to me. But I also Arrowhead obviously holds a special place in my heart too. So I would love to not
Mhm.
leave that stadium, or at least not leave that area. But if Missouri's not going to get behind it, go where the money is. I don't blame you at all. You might as well. Everybody else does, so you might as well.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not leaving the metro area because it's 15 minutes from where I'm sitting, 15 minutes that way.
Oh, nice.
So pretty
You'll
pretty
be
short.
able to hear tomahawk chops from there.
Almost. It's down one street, and then I have to turn left and go 3 exits. So
Oh,
yeah, it's
nice.
pretty close. But
Yeah.
just a word of warning to potential Kansas City, Kansas Chiefs fans: if laws aren't changed, don't bring your recreational marijuana with you into Kansas,
Yeah. True.
because
Yeah.
sports gambling illegal in Missouri, legal in Kansas.
Yep.
Recreational marijuana legal in Missouri, illegal in Kansas, and they do stings and bust on game days. So
Yep. Plus,
be
crossing
careful with
state
that. Just
lines
as a word of
is a
warning.
felony.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
still a federal
they
crime, so
they
you don't
don't
want to
mess
get
around.
stuck.
They'll
Yeah,
walk
you don't want
around
to get
and
stuck with
start writing
federal
some
crimes.
tickets.
Yeah.
Hmm. So kind of crazy things you get with a split jurisdiction city.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think it'll be 2028, 2030 probably is when a new stadium would go up. So it's a ways off. It takes a long time to build those,
Yeah, that's true.
because when the Royals were talking about hurrying up and fast tracking the stadium, I was told point blank by a anonymous source with familiarity to building stadiums, no matter what we did, we couldn't get going until after CPK Stadium was complete, because it's the same workers.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
There's only so many people that can work in those facilities, and
Yeah.
they're tied up doing that. So there is some sense of urgency because the Titans are building a new stadium, and it's not that far away. So there's a limited universe of people that can work on them. So it will be the gift that keeps on giving the sports talk here in Kansas City for the next couple of years, no
Yeah,
matter
for
what
sure.
the Chiefs decide in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, joy, it'll give us something to talk about, I guess.
Yeah. Something more positive to talk about as we're clipping through our local sports teams. The Royals have officially crossed the win total from last year.
Yep.
They're pacing to win about 88 games. It should put them right on the break of the playoffs. And we can legitimately ask, have we hit the point where Kansas City is home to the best athlete, the best player in the NFL and Major League Baseball at the same time?
Yeah, I think for sure. But I've been on that bandwagon for a long time, so might have been kind of biased for most of the season. But now I think everybody else sees it too. And yeah, Bobby Witt Jr. is
Yeah.
insane. I don't think there's any argument that he's the best. Well, there is argument for other players, but I agree, and even setting my bias aside, still think that we do have the two best players in the two best leagues in one city, which makes a glorious time to be a Kansas City fan. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think we do too. John Heyman from Bleacher Report and MLB Network, he just said the American League MVP is a two-player race right now. Bobby Witt Jr. in the lead and Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
That's pretty good company.
Yeah. I think like Aaron just hits a lot of home runs, but it just factor the other side of the ball in, and it's got to go to Bobby. But Again, I'm very
on
biased,
defense
so
and speed. True.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing because you could potentially have the MVPs in both sports coming right from Kansas City, which is crazy. I mean, considering there's only been 1 year in the team's history where they both made it to the playoffs in the same calendar year.
Mhm.
2014, the only time the Royals and the Chiefs were playoff teams the same year.
Yep.
And that was the year the Chiefs went and got rolled by the Colts after having a big lead and just kind of
Yeah.
collapsed.
Yeah.
And then the Royals ran deep. They made it to the World Series. So
Yeah.
it would be nice to see the second year when both teams make it to the playoffs. And I
Yeah.
think we'll get there. I think the Royals will edge in.
I do too. And can they make a World Series run so we get 2 championships at the same time and 2 regular season MVPs? Because Patrick's going to win MVP this year. I'll
Yeah,
call it right now.
I'll give you that.
That
You
it
know, I
feels
don't
like
know,
just
but
like 2 years ago when it was like he's going to make a comeback year and win an MVP, and he did. It feels like it's going to be the same thing
Mhm.
this year. And now he's got all these wide receivers. He's going to make a comeback year and win an MVP. So if we can get Bobby to do it, we'll have both MVPs in
Yeah,
the same city. Like, what could be better,
and reported by TMZ and Entertainment Tonight, Taylor Swift going to be spending the break from her a never-ending tour in Kansas City for a couple months. So all the Swifties
Yeah.
can be happy. Going to see Taylor Swift up and around the KC Metro.
Let's just get her a residency at the T-Mobile Arena. Why not? She could do 3 shows a week there and just live in Kansas City, and she'll make plenty of money.
Sure,
Which, not that she needs more, but why not make as much as you can?
worked for Garth Brooks. He did 17
Right?
shows there.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
I'll
good
sign a
idea.
petition to get her in a residency there. Why not?
Hey, just because it was a theme question with sporting and the current, how do you feel about the Royals? Because I think the same thing applies. They actually have some young foundational players now. Obviously, Bobby Wood Jr., he's here for a long time.
Mhm.
Vinny Pasquantino, he's living up to the potential. He's doing what we thought he would. Going to easily crush 100 RBIs. It's at 83, 84 right now
Mhm.
and plenty of season to go. He's been hitting. I think he's healthy. Michael Massey has shown that when healthy, he's a consistent hitter. Lucas Ursig, the
Mhm.
closer that they traded for from the A's, you got him signed up through 2029.
Mhm.
How do you feel about the youth with the Royals, the foundational pieces? Because in a way, obviously they haven't won a World Series yet, so don't jump on that.
Yeah.
But after 2015, the Royals window was pretty much closed because everybody was contracted out. They went ahead and they retained Alex Gordon and Salvador, but that was about it. And that
Mhm.
team dissipated quickly. This team seems like it's built better to go a long way. They're
Mhm.
not in any even remote salary danger going out to 2026, 2027.
Mhm.
They can add and they can spend a lot of money and re-sign guys. I
Mhm.
think they may be built for a longer run now than they were then.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I will say I think to tie into the sporting and current question, it's harder to do that in the MLB. There's more turnover and
There's more pieces.
there's more pieces and there's more of like the whole what we just did with the trade deadline being like, okay, now it's really about
Hmm.
are you a buyer or a seller right now this year? And
Yeah.
sometimes that factors in more with baseball than it does with other sports. So we could lose players like MJ Melendez or Brady Singer are the top 2 that come to my mind. Not this year because it felt like we were more buyers because we're playoff eligible. But let's say next year
Hmm.
we take just a little bit of a dip, even just a little bit, even where it's like, well, we might make the playoffs, but probably not. So let's try to keep this good team we have together, and now we need to trade MJ in order to do that. So I think it's a little harder, but I think, Bobby Witt, obviously, he's not going anywhere. Vinny's a good example of some youth that I don't think will go anywhere. Freddie Fermin is another one for me that I think will be.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it just seems like he just fits perfectly of like, obviously Salvy's not going to be here forever and probably not too much longer, I wouldn't think. So it just feels like Freddie just slots right in, and it's like, cool, we had Salvi for 16 years or whatever we had him. Now we'll have Freddie Fermin for 15 years, and we won't worry about the catcher spot ever again. So
yeah,
that
he's
that could
just
be
a
really
good
nice.
all-around player.
Yeah, he is. So I just think with MLB, it is a little bit harder because you do have that. You can have 1 year where you're just a little bit under the playoff line, and now you have to get rid of 1 or 2 players to try to make sure you stay in that realm and not fall back to where we have been recently. So, but to your point, yeah, I think it is built. It is built that we might be a few years away, like in the 5 or 6 realm versus with the last run. It was pretty clearly like, well, we got this year and 15 and then maybe 16, but then we're pretty much shot.
Yeah.
So it feels like this one will last a little longer for sure.
Well, and I think they are pulling. They're doing what John Sherman said he wanted to do, and they're pulling examples from what he did in Cleveland as the co-owner. And they're trying to build that consistent winner because look at the Guardians. They've been near the top of the division now for a decade.
Yeah.
As a native Clevelander, though, the advantage that the Royals have with their build and bust model, the Royals did win a World Series. The
True.
Indians / Guardians, they haven't gotten it done.
That's true.
And
they probably could have won one.
I'd take the World Series over being consistently in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's I think a question that a lot of I hear on the radio, on like Kansas City sports radio a lot, is like, if you could go back in time and be like, okay, we lose our World Series championship back in 15, but we make the playoffs 9 out of the last 10 years. And I haven't heard anybody say, yeah, I would do that. Like, no, I'll keep the World Series title. You know, now we're getting closer to a decade, so it's like, okay, we need to at least make the playoffs at this point. But no, I'll take the championship all day long, especially with how bad we were leading up to that, where it was like, I don't know if we'll ever win a championship in my lifetime, but here we are, got one. So
yeah, and they seem to be moving in the right direction. They seem to be putting it together and getting those foundational pieces in place. Really, this one makes a lot more sense. You feel a buildup to being good. More like, here to use a local team, more like Sporting when you had Beasler, Roger Espinoza, Graham Zusi, and you're saying, hey, these guys are good. We're doing something here. We're moving the right direction. And then you got to watch them for basically a decade sit right up near the top of the league.
That's a good point. It did, like with Sporting, with that, it was always like, we never doubted if we were going to be good. It was, do we have enough to get it done this year? Or are we going to lose in a conference final or lose in a cup? Or, you know, like we knew we were going to be good. It does feel like that more with the Royals, the way they're building this now. It kind of feels like it has more longevity, where we might for a few years be like, okay, we know we're going to make the playoffs, or we at least feel confident we're going to make the playoffs. You know, can we win a division? Can we make a run in the playoffs and not just get there and get embarrassed kind of thing? So that makes it more exciting to be a Royals fan than we have since, 2014 came out of nowhere, to your point, like you said. 2015 felt very different. 2015 was like, okay, we're winning the World Series this year from the get-go. But yeah, it feels like we'll have way more consistency for at least, I've got to say 5-6 years at least.
Yeah, I would think so. Because, I mean, you made a good point. There is a lot of revisionist history going on with 2014 because at the All-Star break in 2014, Mike Moustakas, his numbers were worse than MJ Melendez's are right now. He had the 190 batting average and almost no power. People were calling up asking for Ned Yost to get fired. And getting ready, the bottom seemed to be dropping out. And then light switch hit, and here they go.
Yeah.
And then it was a run from the second half of 2014 all the way through to the end of 2015. So, yeah, there's a different feel. This is a much more consistent buildup, whereas that was just, hey, I think we got it. Let's go. And they basically sacrificed the future for the present. As you take a look at some of the draft picks that they traded away, some of the minor leaguers, it was all in. Let's go. And then they compounded it by making bad draft picks then after. I mean, I don't think anybody's got a Christian Colon autographed jersey or a Brandon Finnegan autographed piece of memorabilia. I mean, they were number 1 picks. Club
That's
Griffin,
true.
Asa Lacy. I mean,
That's
you
true.
had some disastrous picks, which just
That's
buried
true.
them.
Although, I guess to be fair, Christian Colon, I'm pretty sure, got the game-winning hit in the World Series, the go-ahead
He
hit
did,
that
and
scored the run.
Brendan Finnegan played a little bit in the playoffs, and then
Yeah.
they were done, and we
Yeah.
were looking for Alberto, don't call me Raul Mondesi Jr. to be the
Yeah.
savior, and we got a off-injured relief pitcher for him, and I think Boston fans would tell you we got the better end of the deal.
Yeah. That was I was so excited, along with everybody else. Like, I was like, man, Mondesi, it feels like it felt the same when Mondesi came around as when Bobby Witt came around, except for Bobby Witt delivered. So, we definitely got the better end of that one too, but it felt the same, but it just never happened. He just kept getting injured.
Absolutely.
And I was like, man, I was so excited to have them both. I thought that was going to be the thing, and then he just couldn't stay healthy, and it was like, man, never mind, just move on.
No, my God, when Alberto Mondesi Jr. came up, you'd watch him and go, this guy's the best player in baseball, because he would have stretches where he just absolutely dominated for a week and then gone for a month.
Yep.
And that's continued in Boston, except the dominating for a week part's gone now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, on that tale of woe from the Kansas City sports history, the legend of Alberto Mondesi Jr., let's go ahead with let's go to weekly champions here. And we'll bring in weekly champions with Wrestling Spotlight. Here's our friend Taya Valkyrie.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Taya Valkyrie, La Buena Loca, and you are watching Wrestling Spotlight.
And by the way, Taya got robbed in her match against Timeless Tony Storm.
I was just going to say, I should go watch one of her matches so that I know who she is. But now that you said that, if she got beat, maybe I don't want to watch her. I don't know.
Well, she is a legendary lucha libre wrestler.
Oh.
And a former Canadian ballerina, La Buena Loca, Taya Valkyrie. And you can see her
a common combination right there,
Yeah. Not a lot of Canadian ballerina luchadors out there. You could easily say she's the best one ever.
Yeah.
So with that, got the Wrestling Spotlight Championship here. Steve, who's your champion of the week?
I'm going to give mine to the entire Kansas City current team for being the only soccer team in Kansas City that can get stuff done consistently. So we appreciate that. Plus, they made a final, even though the final's not until, 3 years from now, something like that. Even though it's not for a long time.
Right around Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm just going to give it, I know it's kind of a cop-out, but I'm going to give it to that whole team because they just deserve it. They continue to deliver, so.
I like that one. That's good. And I'll stay at CPKC Stadium. But I'm going to go with head coach Vlatko, a guy who said to The Athletic that I had lost my love for the game. I lost the joy of coaching after being forced out of being the U.S. women's national team coach, largely because the concern was they weren't scoring enough and that he didn't, quote unquote, understand offense. You can search it in The Athletic. It's a great article going in detail about how he went to Macedonia to just get away for a while, went back to his home in Europe, and came back home to Kansas City, where he used to be the Comets coach, and he coached a previous iteration of the NWSL here in Kansas City, and found his joy for the game back, and obviously knows offense because they are running away and crushing the scoring records. They're going to easily break the all-time record for NWSL team goals. They've already beat every record that the current franchise had. The problem wasn't Vlatko. The problem is the rest of the world's trying. And I think now everybody knows that because you can't question that he doesn't know how to coach offense.
Yeah. Very true. That's a good one too.
Yeah. So a couple of good weekly champions, both down there on the riverfront where the current is rising. And Boulevard Beer, hey, we're happy to do a paid product placement for Teal Rising, a delicious Kansas City beer, the Teal Rising for the Kansas City Current of Boulevard Brewing, Duval Corporate. Feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to provide some product placement. And then we could have a toast with a nice pint of Teal Rising.
That's going to be really hard for me to find in Colorado, but I will do what I can.
Well, we'll ship it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm in.
We'll ship it, and we can get some sponsorship from CPKC Rail Yards. We'll just ship a case of Teal Rising to you out there in Colorado.
Perfect.
Well,
that sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, you just have to go to the rail yard and you get send you like a 100-pack.
Worth it. Yeah, worth it. Why not?
Yeah, why not? With that, we'll wrap it up here. Steve, where can people find you in the Paint the Wall podcast?
Yeah, Paint the Wall podcast. We are on Twitter, on YouTube, PTW_pod is what you can find us on most of those. And here on FiredUP Network.
Yeah. And you can also tune in and catch me on Wrestling Spotlight. We're going to break down SummerSlam this week, and we're on the road to All In. Going to be heading out to London to Wembley Stadium, historic soccer venue, to be in the stadium during AEW's takeover of the world famous soccer venue for All In 2024, where Wembley Stadium, Steve, will become whose house? Swerve's house.
I knew that. That was the first thing I thought.
Stay tuned to the FiredUP Network for more sports and entertainment, and download that TrueTV app, TrueTV Plus app, to follow it anywhere you go, mobile device, computer, TV. TrueTV Plus app, 100% free on all of the app platforms. You can also catch us on sports.tv and Carbon TV. For Steve, I'm Gerald Bentley. Thanks for joining us here on Time Out Kansas City.